Welcome back to another Seattle Seahawks review. The Seattle Seahawks lose to the St. Louis Rams 23-17 in a game that wasn't that great. It was tough for the Seattle Seahawks. Overall, it was a bad game. Russell Wilson today, he didn't play a bad game. If I had to here's the issue with today. Today the Seattle Seahawks offensive line played terrible. They played like they did in week 1 when they lost to the Rams earlier in the season. The Rams will go to 7-8. Seahawks will fall to 9-6 and 5-3 at home, something they haven't done for several years. Essentially, before Russell Wilson became the superstar quarterback for the Seahawks, and it's just been a tough season so far when it comes to the offensive line. There seems like there's flashes of hope, and these last 5 weeks was great. The previous 5 weeks, 5 straight wins. By no means do I diminish this loss and say that we're not going to do anything. I think this is just a bump in the road, and they have to overcome it. But next week they have the Cardinals, in which a game many people don't see them winning, and that will probably put them at 9-7. I see them winning it. Obviously, I'm a Seahawks fan. I'm going to say that they're going to win every single game. But realistically, it's going to be a tough game, considering we could not defeat the St. Louis Rams on our home turf. That's the biggest issue in today's game. On our home turf, we lost to the St. Louis Rams, in a game we should have won. And overall, it was just a tough game for the Seahawks. They couldn't get much done whatsoever. Russell Wilson was sacked 4 times in the game, and he was pressured every single time he dropped back. It looked like what the Seattle Seahawks were playing like in the Arizona Cardinals game. It was tough all around. Overall, the Seahawks lose this game in a fashion that was just terrible. At the end of the game, we had a chance a little bit. I mean, it wasn't much of a chance. We had several opportunities to win this football game. The offensive line could not protect. It's that simple. It came down to that. The offensive line is full-heartedly what I blame the loss on. So let's get into some stats today. Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson threw 25 for 41, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception with a passer rating of 88.4, while Case Keenum went 14 of 23, 103 yards, and a touchdown pass with an 86 passer rating. Overall, the Seattle Seahawks, the defense played great. Defense played amazing today, completely phenomenal. They were locking everything down, not giving up huge plays. At the end of it, it got a little shaky. They gave up a touchdown to Todd Gurley. He ran for 19 carries, 85 yards, 4.5 average, and 1 touchdown run. But on defense, that was the high point of today. The defense played really well. It played great in almost every category, but the offense didn't. The offense is the reason we lost this game full-heartedly. Too many mistakes. Will Tukuafu fumbling the ball, and they return it for a touchdown. There was I believe 4 or so fumbles on the Seahawks today. The last fumble of the day, Russell Wilson fumbles it, getting tackled and plummeted. But overall, when it comes to this game, the Seattle Seahawks just didn't execute. They didn't execute on their opportunities. They didn't execute on plays. They just fumbled the ball or turned it over. It just wasn't a good game for the Seahawks. It just wasn't their day. But the defense, like I said, played great. And I think that's a high point to look at this game. The defense played great while the offense didn't. So I guess if you can look to next week, that's good going against a high-powered offense of the Arizona Cardinals. Will it be a tough victory? Yes, it'll be 100% one of the hardest games to win. But I think it's possible that the Seattle Seahawks can indeed do it. So we look at some rushing numbers here today. Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson carried it 6 times for 39 yards. This is the first game in over 25 games, I want to say, that the Seahawks have not ran for over 100 rushing yards overall by a team. And that is something the Seahawks just don't do. The other high points of the Seattle Seahawks offense, Doug Baldwin having another terrific day, 8 receptions, 118 yards with a receiving touchdown. And he played really well. He had a fumble in the game, though. That was definitely his low point of his day. But he had a pretty good game overall. Kenny Britt, he had 3 receptions, 49 yards with a touchdown pass, and that was just about it for their receiving. So when we look at the offense, if there's one key for next week, going against the Arizona Cardinals, who have a good defense as well and a good offense, it looks like the Cardinals are the scariest team right now in the NFL. Today, Carolina Panthers lost their undefeated streak. It looked like there was weaknesses in their team that were exposed today. Seattle Seahawks, they lost today, in which the offensive line had so many weaknesses. And I give full credit to the St. Louis Rams defensive line. The defensive line of the St. Louis Rams is completely amazing. And by no means am I going to diminish their amazing things, the amazing things they did today, because they played great. They just beat us. You know, I have a little bit less respect for them, though. At the end of the game, they're talking back to the fans. I think it's more professional to you just to not reply to the fans. Chris Long said the F-bomb 3 times on television in which kids watch the game. I think you just got to be more professional that as a player. You should not be cussing at the fans back and forth. Even if they're cussing at you, ignore them and be a professional and ignore the noise. It's that simple. I just thought it was something I needed to comment on because it was kind of ridiculous. This game, both teams are showboating. And then earlier in the game, Russell Wilson, he slides into the ground, gets hit. He comes up limping. There's no flag on the play. Bruce Irvin's 100% was a illegal hit. By no means was it not. But the same thing happened to Russell Wilson. The penalty wasn't called. There are penalties that weren't called all day on Seattle. But I'm not going to go back to penalties and say this is why we lost the game. Overall, we just didn't execute. We didn't play the game to his full ability. This team just seemed to give up at the very beginning. It seemed like it was just a wasted game. Like they weren't even trying. It seemed like they had this in the bag. No matter what they do, they're going to win this football game. And they got cocky. And I think that's what they did in week 1 against the Rams. I looked at this game and I thought, okay, we're going to win this game. But if this team looks at it as a cakewalk, we're not going to win this game. And that's what they did today. We didn't sack Case Keenum once today. There was 2 fumbles on defense. The defense did a good job. And there is one play, though, that was bad. I'm not sure who fumbled it exactly, but their center picked up the ball. I don't even remember his name, even though it was said several times on the commentary. They fumbled the ball. Seahawks try to pick it up. Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas have a free lane to it. Sherman and Thomas become selfish. The ball gets popped away, goes to the center, and that's over. That's a dead play. That's a ball that we could have had. I believe the game was, at that time, it was 16-10. And there's another fumble that very next play, and they get it back. Or maybe the second play. I think it was maybe a 2nd and 8. The very next play, or the second play, Todd Gurley hurdles over Thomas, gets hit by Lane, I believe. The ball fumbles. Seahawks can't recover. Center recovers, and then they score 2 or 3 plays later, and that was that. It was a 23-10 game. So at that point, it just looked like it was all lost. I looked at it like nothing's going our way, and this game is over. It's just not going to be our game today. And it surely wasn't our game today. Oh, and it's just tough. It's tough watching this team and trying to say that this is the toughest team in the NFL when they lose to a team that is 7-8 now. I mean, I'm not going to downpour on the Rams. I think they're a good team. I don't understand why they can't win against other teams. They played the Seahawks like they did every other team. They'd be a Super Bowl contender. But for some reason they don't. And I don't know why they don't, but it's true. They really do play like a Super Bowl contender when they play us. And it seems it's weird to say that, but I guess the division rivalry and whatnot. So overall, that is how I grade the Seattle Seahawks today. The Seahawks just didn't play well on the offensive side. The line gets an F, no doubt. There is no holes for Kristen Michael to run the ball or even Bryce Brown. There is nothing for the Seahawks. Then there was also penalties that we had, several penalties. You know, we did convert on that 3rd and 31, and I believe we converted on that 3rd and 18 when we scored the touchdown to Doug Baldwin. But penalties killed us. They plagued us. And when we had a 46-yard reception from Bryce Brown, it was an illegal forward pass. Russell Wilson just wasn't aware of the line. And there were some boneheaded challenges that should have never been challenged. They were pointless to challenge. And there's 2 of them that the Seahawks lost. It just didn't make sense. And the Seahawks lose this one 23-17. In reality, it was kind of 23-10. You know, the Rams kind of knew they had it in the bag. You know, there was a little bit of ounce of hope at the very end of the game. I really thought we might have a chance at the very, very end with the onside kick. And it's just booted out of bounds. And that did it. Hope you guys enjoyed. What do you guys grade the Seattle Seahawks efforts here today? It was definitely a tough game to watch, and it was definitely tough to see how this team just, I don't know, they just seemed like they weren't the same team we saw from last week. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a like, a comment, subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one.